Good afternoon, everyone. So this is just an information item for the board, no action to be taken. Pleased to have a presentation by Dr. Daniel Zitterbart and Sean Henry of a company called WhaleSpotter that makes thermal imaging cameras that can be mounted on ships. Basically, the cameras automatically detect whales in the vessel's path and can provide this information in real time to bridge personnel. Dr. Zitterbart is a researcher at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. That was where the technology was developed, and it's now been spun off into a private company called WhaleSpotter, where Mr. Henry Online is the CEO. So as a reminder, this is a project funded for this fiscal year. RCAC has funds to purchase, install, and maintain one of these cameras. However, as mentioned earlier, we're still looking for a partner from one of the TAP shippers to agree to mount it on one of their tankers. If we are unable to find a partner, we'll probably discuss some alternatives at an upcoming PWSRCAC committee meeting. And I just want to say, I think this is a really compelling example of how a technological intervention can actually provide like a real ecosystem benefit. And I'm excited to hear what these gentlemen have to say and turn it over to you. Thanks.
Everyone. Thank you, John. I'm here remote. I'm in Woods Hole. That I cannot be there, but that's too far. I'm going to present you what we've done over the last 15 years and how we got where we are with that technology and WhaleSpotter and how it's currently used across the world. Let me start with sharing my screen. Good. All right. Okay. So this is the first. WhaleSpotter is, as Sean said, provides captains with information of whales along their track early enough ahead in time so they can take evasive action. The technology was initially developed at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, where we did the research for about 15 years. And about 2 years ago, we spun that off because the technology was ready to actually be used on the market. And now there's the WhaleSpotter as a company tasked with the aim to scale this, and with the motto that we make sure we can see what lies ahead to protect what lives below. And why do we need better whale detection? Because there's an estimated 10,000 or more whales globally killed by a vessel strike each year, okay? Most of those you don't see. Most of those none of us see. This is estimates. We see a few, and for example, in September of last year, there was, I have this here on the top left, collision with a humpback whale from a BC ferry down in Vancouver. BC ferries have a track record of about 2 or 3 per year, which they strike, which are seen. And especially here for us in the northeast of the United States, we have the North Atlantic right whale unusual mortality event, where we have about 384 North Atlantic right whales left in the whole population. So those are obviously necessary to be protected. So to alleviate that and kind of to provide a technological solution, our mission is to save whales while providing the industry with a solution that they can still go by their job. That's the whole point here. How does that work? So we have thermal imaging cameras mounted on a vessel looking forward into a possible whale strike zone. And when an animal comes to the surface and breathes, we can detect the spout. And you can see the spout here. It starts at second 0.2, there's nothing yet, and then the whale comes to the surface and you can see the spout growing and then disappearing again. And what we detect is the apparent temperature difference between the animal's spout or body and the water. And this only works at the surface, right? So the animal has to come to the surface. But that's a good thing because the animals have to breathe, so they have to come to the surface, and they are actually susceptible to vessel strike when they are at the surface. So when it's critical, we can see them. We trialed this since 2009. We started in the Arctic, went to the Antarctic, and then worked our way slowly towards the equator to test the efficacy of that technology in all water temperatures. This was a very nice example, which I just showed you. Very high signal-to-noise ratio. Reality is the signal-to-noise ratio is more something like this. Please take care of, look in this little blue box. You can see a few white pixels popping up. And then here on the right side, you have the corresponding also blue box. You see a whale blow, very, very faint. There it goes. This is a whale detected with our technology in 4.7 kilometers so 2.5 nautical miles ahead. And why do I show that to you? Because that's the distances that we want. What sets us apart is we developed a technology that can detect whales so far ahead that even the largest vessels and the largest tankers have enough time to change course and avoid the whale where it is instead of getting very close to the whale. And of course, detecting so far ahead is critical to give the bridge crew enough time. Here are some examples of what we detect. On the top, there is a humpback whale. On the middle, that's a killer whale. At the bottom, that's a minke whale with the respective distances. And by now, the detection also, the classifier can also classify other species, like smaller species, for example, white-beaked dolphin on the left, tuna, jumping tuna here in the middle, and basking sharks on the right. You see there's always two images here. And while all our detection works with a thermal camera measuring the temperature difference, we also have color cameras or black and white cameras on the vessels in the WhaleSpotter to do a species identification during the day. Why do I say this? Because it's important. Since WhaleSpotter works in thermal imaging, it works similarly well day and night. And most of the whale strikes obviously happen at night when the crews on the vessel cannot see ahead and cannot detect animals in their path to take evasive action. So we have two sorts of devices which you can now buy. This is one version for vessel mounted, which is actively stabilized, and one version for land-based systems, usually on towers or lighthouses, which are mostly used for awareness where certain species groups are, usually at choke points. The WhaleSpotter provides long-range marine mammal detection. It works day and night. It is 24/7 validated by experts within seconds. That means that every detection gets sent back to our team. Somebody verifies that's a true whale and then sends it back to the captain. So this ends up in having zero or near zero false alerts. I'll show you data later on, but we believe that captains must not get false alerts. If you get false alerts, you will get alert fatigue. You will not want that technology anymore. This allows to develop trust. Furthermore, it provides a 1 to 3.5 nautical mile reliable detection range. And by reliable, I mean in this range, we assume we detect almost every single cue of the whale surfacing, providing you the necessary situational awareness to make navigation decisions. It is operational in sea states up to 6, and we have used it in kind of any vessel class, whatever provides more than 15 feet elevation where you can mount the cameras, you can starting to get good results. The applications are vessel strike mitigation, obviously. We use it a lot in marine construction for noise impact mitigation for all sorts of marine mammals, as well as in biodiversity monitoring. Overall, we detected with this technology so far more than 230,000 whales in the last years, and we have an operational record of 47 years cumulative. So all cameras are out there, had 37 years of ice on the water so far. Here are a few deployment examples. So we have land-based systems. We put it on autonomous vessels. We have 2 Navy autonomous vessels which are outfitted with that. We used it on research vessels, cruise vessels, large and small, usually expedition-style vessels. We work on ferries, both super fast ferries like this here on the top right. That is a ferry that goes 35 knots, or very large ferries like the Blue Patisse, which crosses the Cabot Strait in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, about 18 knots. And since about 2 years, we have equipped a few container vessels, I think almost up to 10 by now, with that technology. So we have experience operating this on very large vessels as well. The deployments usually look something like this. You have one of our camera boxes with 2 thermal and 1 color camera. Sometimes customers want more than one because they want to do more biodiversity measurements. So we can provide systems with like 3 cameras and a very high resolution color camera on top. So you can get very high resolution pictures of the whales to detect to allow for species identification. As I said, land-based systems can have 1 or 2 or several. And sometimes when way more coverage is necessary. You can see we had a deployment with those 6 on this kind of Christmas tree of WhaleSpotters. On that vessel, we had more than 27 cameras at the same time deployed because that vessel wanted a 6-kilometer buffer around the vessel to make sure they know that there is no whale. From a distribution, WhaleSpotter is now used globally. We started in 2019 with the tests when it was still research, and we detected 78 whales in that year. In 2025, we detected 129,000. That just speaks to the growth of the distribution. The growth is still on the west and east coast of the United States and Canada, as well as in Antarctica, but it's being used globally. And here I have an inset of our detections of the last few months in your area. So you can see in the South Alaskan coast, all the way up to Glacier National Park, we detected thousands of whales in 2025. And over here, going to Anchorage as well as Kodiak on the shipping lanes, we detect whales even in the open ocean. Obviously, in your area over here, we don't have anything yet, but we would love to fill that gap. I have an example how that looks on a vessel. So here's the vessel's bridge. There's a little tablet we provide with a WhaleSpotter interface. And the area which we actually cover is only this yellow piece from what you look forward, because that's the area that's relevant for vessel strike. In this case, whales swim slow, right? They are not going to move from all the way here out to the right into the center of this field of view where they are strikeable, because the moment they are here, the vessel is long past. We really focus on looking far ahead, because if a whale is hanging around somewhere in this area, you got to be able to make a small course correction, about 1, 2, 5 degrees, to pass that pod of whales and minimize vessel strike risk. And here's an example for how that looks, the bridge. So the bridge has this interface. If a whale is detected, a little video pops up on the left. You can see the 2 whale blows here in between the pink lines. Those little white spouts are whale blows. And on the right side, it provides you a radar light interface where each whale is depicted, each detection is depicted by a circle. And you can see as the ship approaches that group of whales, the whales come closer and closer and closer. This detection started at about 1 nautical mile. Now, what do the captains actually do with that? I have some examples here for you about that. So here you see a vessel coming in from below. The green is the field of view of the vessel. The vessel is here on the bottom right, depicted with a blue circle. And as the vessel comes in, there are detected whales on the left along the course, which makes the vessel make a small course correction to starboard, keeps on going. And then there's a second group detected. The vessel again starts to make a course correction to the right until those big group come here. And thank God they did a course correction ahead, because that allows them to ditch the group on their port side and then go ahead and go back on their original course. So here the vessel did for those 2 groups 2 course corrections in pitch black night. So all those examples I'm showing you are where all those navigation maneuvers have been done purely with this technology. Here's another example. You can see the coin we depict here is about 2 kilometers, a bit more than 1 nautical mile. And those vessels were even detected beyond that. The vessel is coming in. Those whales are outside of the center cone. So the vessel is actually not doing anything yet. And at some point, you get more and more whale detections, And then there is this red group here, which starts to appear in the center of the whale, of the field of view. And the vessel takes a course correction for about 1 or 2 degrees to port side to, again, ditch that group on their starboard side. And imagine the vessel strike risk, which would have happened if the vessel would have kept going straight. It would have passed right through the center of where the whales are, while a small course correction, which is actually not much impacting on the operations, allows to dramatically reduce vessel strike risk. And this is my last example. So here we're coming in on the left, and this is a huge encounter. You can see there's like almost 100 whale detections here in a short amount of time, and those come and go and disappear. And the vessel sees that, starts to do a maneuver to port side, turning to the right, going back to starboard side on its course, realizing, oh, there's more whales ahead, doing another course correction to the right to ditch this red group on the starboard side and then back going to the back to its original course. So the technology allows enough lead time for the vessel to take even several course corrections to navigate even that large groups while minimizing vessel strike risk. And I have one study for you in the Pacific Northwest and Alaska area. Over 3 months in the summer, we had 9,253 detections of species which were actually at vessel strike risk. Those were grouped in 525 encounters, and encounter for me is where the vessel meets a new group of whales, right? And that leads to an alert on the ship, on the bridge. Please do something about it. In those 9,253 detections, we had 12 false alerts, so false alert rate of 0.13%. The vessel itself encountered about 4 animals per day, for groups of animals per day. And I plot this here to show that in this example, we had about 60%, 63% of all the detections were done at night or in twilight, and all those would have been missed by a human. The first detection in this example was an average at 1.9 kilometers distance, so a bit more than 1 nautical mile. And this got the bridge crew about 3.5 minutes average on time to target. So from the moment of detection, the crew had 3.5 minutes to actually, until they would have been at where the whale was, right? And that they used this information over 25 times at night to do course corrections, because the crew thought, oh, this is actually critical and we have to do something about here to reduce vessel strike. This led to an over 90% reduction in vessel strike risk, because the crew could always put space between them and the whales when it was necessary. And to quickly summarize, so WhaleSpotter provides obviously the real-time alerts on the bridge with a dedicated app, as I showed you, and it's here on the bottom right. It provides a dashboard where you can get a map or a list, as here on the bottom left, with all the encounters which were detected. It provides real-time data to whale dissemination networks like RAS or Whale Alert. I don't know if you guys use the Marine Exchange in Alaska up there. We could implement that as well. That's usually very easy. It provides NEMA integration. Stakeholders get a daily summary email, and you can have a tabular data download to see what and where were whales detected and what did the vessels do along the way. And to finalize, as the summary, thermal imaging for whale detection is now proven, matured, and used routinely. WhaleSpotter provides expert and verified real-time long-range whale detection and alerts with sufficient lead time for captains to take evasive action day and night, while night being critical here, obviously. The whole network provides a large spatial coverage and is designed with sharing in mind. And WhaleSpotter itself provides about 90 to 99% whale strike risk reduction, while vessel speed restriction zones provide about 50%. I know that's not critical here, but I always say this because this technology can be a second layer of whale protection, which really can minimize vessel strike risk. And with that, I want to close and give time for questions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you for that presentation.